Okay, we'll start off with the things you will need to mount your bus door hinges to your cabinet. We'll start off with the connecting rod, the end caps for the connecting rod, some screws, the hinges themselves, a square, ruler, a pencil, potentially a drill bit for a hinge cutter, a hammer, and maybe a drill or a screwdriver. Your kit will also come with two 35mm plastic cups that fit into the hinge cutouts on your cabinet door. Alright, first step is putting the 35mm cups into the holes. Now, if your cabinet door comes pre-drilled with the holes, that's great, just put the cups in. But if it comes blank, you can drill it yourself by getting one of these. It's a standard hinge drill bit for hidden hinges. It's 35mm across. Get it from Bunnings or any hardware store. Alright, now we're going to measure where these holes have to go if they're not pre-drilled for you. So we're going to take our square and we're going to put 22.5mm on the square, and we're going to measure that from the edge of the door, and we're just going to draw a line. Just imagine that the cups aren't actually in there yet, it's just a blank door. This is just for instructional purposes. So 22.5mm from the edge of the door there. Alright, next step is we're going to be finding the halfway point of the height of the cabinet door. So my cabinet door is 72 centimeters in height there, so I'm going to go to 36 and put a little mark there. And once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to get our square again, and we're just going to mark a line where that halfway point is at the door. From the line that we've just drawn at the halfway point, you're going to measure out, ideally, if your cups aren't pre-installed and you've got a blank door, 245mm out between the center line and where the center of the cup is. Mine are at 270 because they were pre-cut and pre-installed. It'll work, that's fine. You just don't want to go any further than that because the connecting rod itself is 580mm long, and if the space between your cups is greater than that, then the connecting rod obviously won't fit because the connecting rod is only that length. So you generally just want to take that distance there between the center line and the center of the cup, double it, and if it's less than 580, you're good to go. Just obviously make sure that if you're using a small door, that the connecting rod isn't larger than the door itself, because you won't be able to shut it. You can use a smaller door and no connecting rod. It would just depend on how small the door is. It can be done, but yeah, just make sure that the distances between the cups isn't greater than 580mm. And once you've marked out the spot for your two cups, just use your hinge drill bit to drill the two 35mm holes and put in your cups. Alright, the next step is attaching the hinges. So the hinges themselves, they comprise of two components. There's the hinge itself and the mounting bracket. That bracket actually comes off, so when I open up the hinge, it's held in by those two screws there. So once you're mounting the bracket onto the cabinet, we'll be taking those off. So the hinge itself is held on to the cabinet by 4 mounting locations. So the 2 screws there and the 2 screws either side. We'll be measuring those holes now, and you can see the hinge just lies on like that. with the hinge in the cup there. So you can see on my cabinet door, I've already got these holes pre-drilled. That's because I've already had this mounted on there, but we'll show you how to measure it properly. So with your square, we're just going to be measuring 220 mil. So we measure 220 mil from the side of the cabinet going through the center of the cup, and then we're going to be marking where 220 is and drawing a perpendicular line. And you can see where my pre-drilled holes are, it should line up at 220. The next measurement we're going to be doing is 58 mil on our square. While I fumble around with my square here, we're going to be measuring 58 from our last line. So put the square on the last line we drew and go up a further 58. Draw another perpendicular line, and you can see that it is in line with those two holes there. Obviously you're not going to have those holes because you've got a blank cabinet door. In summary, we've drawn two lines, one 220 millimeters away from the edge of the door, and then another one 58 millimeters away from that line. Now I've just extended that line all the way up to meet the two perpendicular lines, and we're going to be finding out the spacing of the 4 mounting holes for our hinges. So the first set of holes should have 20 mil from the center line outwards. So I'm just going to write 20 mil there. So that means there's a distance of 40 millimeters between those first set of holes. And then those second set of holes should be 12 mil apart, which means it's 6 mil either side of the center line. Now place your hinge on the markings that you've made, and then either using a screwdriver or your handy drill, just drill it in. Then on the other side, just repeat all the steps you did before and mount the second hinge. Onto the third step now, and we're going to be attaching our connecting rod here. The connecting rod slides in behind the two hinges in those channels there. We've got to loosen these screws here. So there's 4 screws on each hinge, and what we'll do is we'll loosen the screws with a drill or a screwdriver. You just want to loosen them until they are sort of loose and can jiggle around, not removing the screw, but just so they're a bit looser. That's so you can slide in the connecting rod into the channels. So just slide it in from either end, and make sure all the screws and the backing plate goes through the slots, and then just go all the way through, and once it's in, just tighten up the screws again. Alright, congratulations, your door is complete. So what you should do now is remove the mounting plates off the hinges themselves. So what you can do to make that easier is just flip your door around, and then just grabbing the connecting rod, you can just open up the hinge like that, and then you can access the backing plate screws. There's 2 screws on each plate, and I'll point them out here shortly. So there's one there and one there. We'll just remove those. Now the backing plate has 2 different screws, so don't get them mixed up. That one goes in that hole there, and this little screw with a little rib in it goes in the hole there. Alright, so mounting your brackets to the cabinet. So this is my test cabinet here. Ignore the mess of holes around the area here. My cabinet came pre-drilled with normal hinge holes, and I've just been experimenting the best measurements on where to place the mounting bracket. So ignore all the holes. I'm going to show you the correct way and the correct measurements on how to mount your backing plates. So the mounting bracket just sits on the cabinet like so, pointing that way. The first measurement you want to be doing is just measuring out 22 mil, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing a line just sort of in the rough position where you think your bracket's going to go. So we're just going to use our pencil, ignoring all the holes that I've got on mine. We're just going to draw a line 22 mil back from the face of the cabinet. And then you can see the 22 mil should line up with those two holes at the front there. The next measurement we need is in relation to where your door will sit on your cabinet in terms of height. So what you need to measure is that distance from the center of the cup to the top of your door. For mine, it will be roughly 89-90 mil. It'll be different for yours probably, but just measure it and remember that distance. So once you've got that measurement, this is the part where you get to choose where your door sits in relation to your cabinet height-wise. So at the end of my ruler right there, that's where my door will start. So I'm going to be placing my door just a bit lower than the bench of the cabinet, just so I can grab it and open it. So once we pick a spot, just mark a line out with the pencil, perpendicular from the front of the cabinet, like so. And that's where your middle of your hinge is going to sit. So once we've marked that line, what we should be seeing is a cross with the 22 mil line and then your other line that you just drew. And now we can mark the first two holes either side of that cross, so it lines up with the first two holes of the bracket. So 20 mil either side of that cross, so it would be actually up and down if you would had the cabinet standing up. You'll be drilling a pilot hole, or you can just mark it. So here's a closer view of what we've just done. Yeah, again, ignoring all the other holes. From that cross there outwards, you'll be measuring 20 mil, and the other way 20 mil, and you can either drill a pilot hole or just mark it. Once we lay the the bracket on top, we can see that those holes line up with the first two mounting holes. You can also see that the bracket has those sort of elongated holes as well. You can use those holes if you'd like. They allow for a bit more adjustment with the up and down of the mounting bracket itself, but it's really up to you. To find where the bottom hinge mounting bracket will go, what we've got to do is we've got to get that distance from the middle point to where the center line of your hinge is, and then double it effectively. So I think mine was about 27 something. So that distance there, and then you take that distance again, so you double it, you get that number, and you pretty much draw another center line from that spot there down to there. And then you replicate the measurements of what you just did. Now once they're mounted, using the screws, just attach the door to the mounting brackets. Once you've done that, don't forget to add a door handle. It's always handy. Now onto a bit of door adjustment, a bit of finishing. So once your door is on, just test and see how it fits. It'll be a bit rough initially. You can see here that I've got a bit of a gap there, and not much of a gap there. So how we can fix that is loosening that screw there, and there's one underneath right there, repeated on the other hinge as well. And you can actually just move the door where you want it, then tighten those screws, and then it'll sit nicer. The two screws that you use to mount the door are also adjustment screws. So that screw there does a bit of the left and right tilt of the door as you look at it. And that screw at the back does the fore and aft. And you can mess with it a little bit just to get it looking good. The instructions also have those set out if you can't remember them. And if you've used those elongated holes, I haven't, but if you did, you can go up and down with it as well. Once you've got it all adjusted and looking good, you're all done. Thanks very much for watching.